Hello, everybody. My name is Bernicke, and today I'm going to go over 7 reasons why you should take your Social Security early. And before I go over those reasons, I think it's extremely important to understand what the break-even age is. And there's been many different articles written on what is the break-even age. And the fact of the matter is there isn't one break-even age because it's dependent on a set of variables that are almost impossible for us to predict at the onset of your decision. And one of the best articles I've ever read on this subject was written by a former Social Security executive named Doug Lemons. And he wrote an article for the Journal of Financial Planning many years ago. And he looked at a variety of different variables that can move the needle one way or the other as it pertains to when you should take Social Security income. He looked at things like the tax implications of your decision, inflation, the rate of return that you would make on your investments. And based on all these different variables, he compared whether it makes sense to take it as early as 62 or whether it would make sense to delay it as 66, and even looked at comparing taking it at age 66 versus age 70. And he found that the break-even age for most people is going to be somewhere between age 81 and 87.1 years old, depending on all these different variables. And essentially what that means is, if we knew for sure you're going to live to the age of 95, generally speaking, it's going to make sense to delay taking your Social Security income. And if you're going to pass away before this range, it would make sense to take your Social Security income earlier. In addition to the variables that he looked at, there's a whole bunch of other variables to consider. I've listed some of them up here, but at the end of the day, you have unique circumstances that are very unique to you. And your circumstances aren't going to be the same as somebody else's. And so when you read articles that are written on this subject, a lot of times they fail to consider all the different moving parts. So I wanted today to hopefully elaborate on some of these different variables to discuss why it can make sense to take your Social Security income a little bit earlier for some people. But again, this isn't a broad stroke set of advice because every variable is different for your unique circumstances. But reason number one that can move the needle a little bit more towards taking your Social Security income earlier in retirement is if you will not have active income from a job in excess of the $23,400 earnings limit. So active income, again, is active income from a job. It is not pension income. That is not included as active income. And it could also include net income from a business. If you're going to be under that level, they're not going to be taking any of your Social Security income away from you prior to your full retirement age, which for most of you listening to this is going to be 67 years old. Depending on your date of birth, it could be as low as 66 years old, but generally for most of you, it'll be 67 years old. And if you exceed this level prior to your full retirement age, you're going to have some of your Social Security withheld. If you're not going to exceed that, that's a reason why it can make sense to move the needle a little bit more towards taking your Social Security income earlier. Another reason why it can make sense to take your Social Security income earlier is if you are worried about the Social Security Trust Fund running out of money and therefore benefits being reduced in the future, it would make more sense to get your hands on your money sooner rather than later, right? And so if you don't have a lot of confidence that the government is going to fix the problem with the OAS-DI Trust Fund, which is essentially the Social Security Trust Fund, which is projected to run out in the year 2033, it'd make more sense to get your hands on your money sooner rather than later if you don't have confidence that the government's going to fix that problem and pay you 100% of what is promised throughout your lifetime. Reason number 3. So if you have a dependent child, that will entitle you to additional Social Security income. And if you don't start taking your Social Security income, however, each year that you don't take it, you're foregoing that extra income that you'll never get back. So again, if you have a dependent child, that can definitely move the needle towards taking your Social Security income sooner rather than later, all things being equal. Number 4, if you are single and believe you will pass away before your break-even age, obviously that's a reason why it would move the needle towards taking your Social Security income early. And if you are married and you believe both you and your spouse will pass away before those break-even ages we talked about, that also will move the needle towards taking your Social Security income earlier. Number 6, if you believe your nest egg will earn a strong rate of return throughout your retirement, it would make sense to keep as much money in your investment account as possible. And the one way you can do that is by, instead of taking an income stream from your nest egg, take that income stream from Social Security, which will allow that nest egg to continue to grow. And conversely, if you don't have confidence in the rate of return of your investment portfolio through your retirement years, that would be a reason to actually delay taking your Social Security income. So depending on your level of confidence, this could move the needle towards taking your Social Security income sooner rather than later. Number 7, if you are married and historically the higher income earning spouse is delaying their benefits, so if you're married and your spouse was the breadwinner for most of the years and they're delaying their Social Security, by them delaying their Social Security, that ensures that that higher amount will continue not only for their lives, but if something happens to them and they predecease you, that higher Social Security benefit will continue on for your lifetime and your lower benefit will go away. So if you're in a situation where you were the lesser breadwinner, but your spouse was the breadwinner and they're delaying taking their Social Security income, that ensures you're a little bit more security for you and should give you a little bit more confidence to take your Social Security earlier. And if anything, it can be considered as a hedge because nobody knows when you're going to pass away. And so that's reason number 7, why it can make sense to consider taking your Social Security income earlier as opposed to delaying it. So hopefully I give you some different things to think about. The most important thing to understand is there's a lot of variables that can either make it more attractive to take your Social Security income earlier, and there's many variables on why it would make sense to delay. Your unique circumstances will dictate what the best option is for you. We would strongly encourage you to talk to somebody before making your decision because this is something you only get one chance to really take a stab at. So if you do have any questions or you'd like to schedule a quick 15-minute call, please click the link in the description, or you can visit our website at www.bernicke.com. Thank you very much.